Hello and welcome again. Today we're doing a 15-minute brief, but hopefully not too stressful webinar. My name is Christina Bowser and I'm the training director here at Extended Disc, and joining me today is my fellow colleague, Amy Lipinski, senior trainer here at Extended Disc.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, and today we're actually going to be talking about stress again, just kind of a different approach than we did last week. This one, our topic today is, does the DISC style play a role in employees' stress levels? Before we get into it, I just want to say we will record this, or we are recording this, and we'll put this on our website. Also, as always, we don't have time for live questions. So, 15 minutes, we don't have a lot of time. We're just going to do a brief overview, but always know that you can reach out to us with additional questions. So,
Christina, one of the things that I was thinking about is I'm often asked by clients as I'm facilitating is, how can we keep DISC alive? We've taken DISC, our people have gone through DISC, what can we do now? And that's what's exciting about today's webinar, is that there are several reinforcement reports that we can use to help keep DISC alive.
And these are just some examples of them. But the one that we want to kind of focus in on today, of course, ties to our webinar topic, which is the Stress and Time Management Report. And what is so effective about this report is, in terms of keeping things alive, your clients, your employees, they don't have to take another DISC questionnaire. What they do is, once they have their valid results in your database, you can actually very easily go into your admin account and choose this report to reorder. So you can send it after they've come to your training or after you've debriefed their standard individual report with them. And again, it is a powerful reinforcement tool. But before we actually talk about how we use the report itself, let's look at DISC styles themselves and how stress impacts them.
Yeah, and when we think about stress, small amounts of stress can be helpful. They can be helpful in getting us motivated to perform in our jobs. But too much stress can be negative. It can have a negative impact on our job performance or even our overall health. And what even might be stressful for one person might be quite enjoyable for another.
At a certain level.
Right.
So, we just want to reintroduce, for some of you that have sat in on Amy and my webinars on each of the DISC styles, you'll be familiar with these team members that we're introducing. We have our D style Diana, our I style Ian, and our S style Sam, and our C style Carol. And we're going to be using them to help us describe DISC styles and stress,
because they all respond to it uniquely and differently. So tell us, I'm always curious, do D styles even have a cause of stress?
Sometimes we don't think it, but from not being a D style, I say sometimes they are my cause of stress. But just kidding. So for you Dianas out there, or our colleagues that are Dianas out there, oftentimes D styles see causes of stress as when they are not in control, or what they perceive situations where things are just not run efficiently, or inefficiencies, or things are getting bogged down, or they perceive it as being slow because there's indecisiveness going on. And quite honestly, for many of us, when we see the word collaboration, it's a motivator. We get actually excited by the ability to collaborate. But sometimes from the perspective of Diana sees it like, oh my gosh, it might take a long time. I'm going to have to lose some of my control. So collaboration can actually be a cause of stress for our Dianas.
Great to know. And for Ian, our I style, what causes him stress is that repetitiveness. He doesn't like the same thing over and over again. He wants variety. And another cause of stress for him is inflexibility. He likes to be able to kind of change as he goes, right? And not have those parameters put around him. And Ian isn't so great with the details. He doesn't like the nitty-gritty. So a cause of stress for him is having too many details. And Ian's our social butterfly. So he is stressed when he is not around other people. That isolation will definitely cause him some stress.
And for Sam, who is our S style, a definite cause of stress. We think of our Sams in our teams as steady Eddies. They prefer the status quo. So when they get this sense of instability, like they don't know what's coming up next, or there's sudden changes in their environment, that is a cause of stress. Sam, he's your easygoing team member. So for him, conflict, if people aren't collaborating, can cause him a source of stress, as well as because, again, he's that team player. If he's suddenly kind of thrown in there and say, somebody tells Sam, okay, you're in charge, you need to make the decisions now, that could be a source of stress for Sam. We see S styles as sometimes being indecisive because they prefer to make the best decisions, not only for themselves, but the people close to them.
Yep. And as we've been talking about, what may cause stress for one person may not be stress for another, right? So Ian was stressed out by having too many details. Well, Carol, our C style, a cause of stress is not having those details, a lack of information. Carol likes to have all that data. And another cause of stress for her would be that feeling that you need to make chit chat, making small talk. Disorganization causes Carol stress. She likes things structured and organized. And Carol's also a rule follower. So when people don't follow rules or bend rules or say, rules are meant to be broken, that can sometimes cause Carol some stress.
Yeah, Amy and I were talking. She's like, oh, well, what about breaking rules? I'm like, for some of us, it's not really breaking rules. It's kind of just bending the rules. So
it's all the same to Carol.
Exactly. So, understanding a little bit about what causes stress, but how does that show up? Sometimes, again, as Amy was talking about, do the D cells like Diana show stress? Yes, they do, but it may not be the same way that we show stress. So for Diana, her signs of stress, she is a task-oriented individual. So she can be so focused on the task, she's a, what's that word, where you juggle a lot of things? Multitasker. Yes. So, she's throwing out, maybe instructions and it comes across as demands, so we perceive that as overbearing. From her perspective, it's like, let's get it done, make mistakes. It's okay. It's part of the process. Let's just get it done. Focus on the end point. She can become easily irritated. She again, that indecisiveness, what she perceives as inefficiency, can irritate her, and she will show that. And because she is a more task-oriented than a people-oriented style, she might not take into consideration our own emotions and feelings of her team members, so she comes across as blunt. And again, everything becomes black and white when Diana gets stressed. So she's all about getting it done, and sometimes she exceeds authority. She forgets to ask for permission when it comes to getting things done.
And oftentimes when we feel stress, we describe that as just amplifying our strengths. Really, we become more of who we are, and it becomes harder to modify our behaviors. So Ian likes to be the center of attention. And a sign of stress is when he starts to demand that attention. Look at me, look at me. And he is naturally emotional, but when he's under stress, it's excessive, right? Over the top. And he also becomes even more unorganized and overpromises and becomes overly impulsive. He's just stressed out and wants to maintain that positive and go, we can do it cheerleading attitude, that it becomes a little overly impulsive and overpromising.
And for Sam, our S style, our steady Eddie, he will lock into that status quo. All of a sudden, you see this, Sam, your colleague, become very stubborn, like this is the way we have to do it. That's how we've always done it. Or he can also just become like shut down, become more withdrawn, complacent. Those emotions we typically don't see on the reserve Sam. We don't see him at all. We don't know if he's excited, if he's mad, how he feels, or if he's even engaged. And there are times where Sam, our colleague, He'll run around checking in things with everybody. He wants reassurance. Again, a sign of stress for Sam.
And for Carol, our C style, a sign of stress looks like that analysis paralysis, right? She wants to be correct. So Carol will just get into that paralysis. I can't move forward. And she'll also fear the worst case scenario with everything. The world is ending. And she tends to shut down and become distant. She's going to kind of lock herself in a room to look over all the data. She also becomes rigid when she's under stress, that everything has to be done exactly a certain way at a certain time because that's just how it is. And she also, another sign of her stress is that she becomes overly cautious. She takes precautions to make sure that it's going to be the right thing to do.
So, talking about what stresses our team members and also how do we observe these signs of stress in them, let's take it one step further, which is one of the powerful tools that we have using extended DISC assessments. And it provides suggestions for us based on our DISC style on how we can alleviate stress in ourselves as well as in our team members. So if you see Diana stressed, think about giving her a sense of independence where she has a feeling of control, limited choices, or that she can have a voice or have a choice.
Mm-hmm. And when you see Ian stressed, again, he's our social butterfly. Get him involved with people, increase his interaction and his ability to influence.
And for Sam, make sure you provide reassurance. The more he trusts you, the more support he's given, the more comfortable he is. And also at any opportunity where we can control it, we want to give him a sense of stability.
And for Carol, to help her alleviate stress is give her all the details. Even if you don't have them, just saying that, you know what, I don't have that right now. As soon as I get it, I'll give it to you. And giving her time to process and absorb that information will help alleviate her stress as well.
So now going back to where we started is how can you use extended DISC tools specifically to help your clients manage stress? And again, reinforcing DISC, these are one of the reinforcement reports. So we pulled just a couple samples from the report, and we're not going to go over them in detail, but we wanted to give you some ideas on how to use them. So in this example, you are familiar with our extended DISC assessments. You're going to be familiar with these bar graphs. So in this category, we're talking about causes of stress. So on the left column are behaviors that may cause stress in different styles. And if your natural style, which is represented by the box, falls more to the right, that means that that particular behavior will cause stress for you. It's a high stress factor. Versus if you fall to the left side of the scale, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't cause stress for you, but based on your natural style, it tends not to cause stress for you. So just a quick example. So here, the losing freedom. For this individual, they score a 5. So it just means that for them, it is a high stress factor if you take away their independence and freedom. But when it comes to being unorganized in their way of working, for some of you out there, just saying unorganized way of working can cause stress. But for this individual, they're on the left side where really it doesn't bother them to work in an environment that's unorganized.
Another section of the report talks about the signs of stress. And an option in looking at this page would be to cover up the scores and to look just at the left side at what are some of those signs of stress and prioritize, do I show this when I feel stressed? And then compare it to how you actually scored on the bar graph itself. And once you've recognized what are some signs of stress, now we can create that action plan. What are some steps that we can take to help alleviate it?
And in the report, it's there to help you. So you can again see here the section on alleviating stress for specific DISC styles. Some will fall more to the right where those behaviors alleviate stress, and some of those behaviors will not impact particular individuals. So again, it's a very brief overview. We just wanted to show you not only an introduction to DISC styles and stress, but also tools that you have available as clients of Extended Disc, that number one, you can use it to reinforce disc understanding that after a workshop, after a training, but also specifically use disc styles to zero in on specific areas of who we are. So thank you guys for all joining us. 15 minutes just flies by. We do have another webinar coming up next Tuesday instead of Wednesday. It's a 30-minute webinar on sales competence assessments. Go to our extendeddisc.org page, look at the events tab, and you can look and see at all of our webinars coming up. So thank you guys all for joining us. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Christina.
All right, everyone, have a great stress-free day.